What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? You're watching Kansas City Chiefs Today, the daily home for breaking news, smart rumors, and fan-first commentary. I'm your host, and today we're tackling a headline that's already buzzing across the kingdom. Chiefs' silence on Josh Simmons is exactly what fans should expect. Yeah, you heard that right, silence. Here's the thing. When this front office goes quiet, it's not apathy, it's a strategy. Silence is how Kansas City protects leverage, keeps the locker room steady, and avoids turning a small story into a full-blown distraction. So let's talk about what that silence likely means, what it doesn't mean, and how it fits the bigger picture for a team with Super Bowl DNA. Buckle up, because by the end of this, you'll know exactly why the quiet around Josh Simmons might be the loudest message of all. And yes, we are still on the road to 5,000 subs, so stick around. A quick reset for anyone joining the conversation. Josh Simmons is a young offensive lineman whose name has bubbled into the Chiefs' discourse, and the team hasn't said much, if anything, about him. That lack of comment isn't unusual for Kansas City. If you've watched this regime, you know how they operate. Under Andy Reid and Brett Veach, the Chiefs keep evaluations in-house, move deliberately, and only speak when there's an actual move to announce. That's not cagey, it's professional. It prevents tampering talk, controls expectations, and stops a developmental story from spinning out of control before it becomes real. Think about the pattern in recent years. The training camp additions, the practice squad elevations, the low-key depth signings. Those stories usually arrive after the paperwork is done and the plan is clear. The Chiefs rarely use press time to validate rumor cycles. They'd rather develop a player in silence than build an echo chamber they can't control. That's especially true with offensive line prospects. Development on the O-line isn't flashy. It's footwork, leverage, and hand placement. It's how a player absorbs coaching from Andy Heck, how he fits the run scheme, how he handles a speed-to-power rusher in one-on-ones. None of that needs a microphone to be effective. So when you see quiet, understand the rhythm. The Chiefs communicate through actions. If Simmons is in the plans, short or long-term, you'll know when there's something real to report. Until then, the silence is part of the process. Let's zoom in on why a potential depth tackle or developmental lineman matters so much. This offense lives on timing. It's spacing in the quick game, it's play action with layered routes, and it's giving your quarterback that extra beat to destroy a defense. One weak link at tackle can tilt the entire structure. If Simmons is in the conversation at all, the lens isn't, is he a star tomorrow? It's, can he be a viable swing option, a reliable practice squad elevation, or a future rotational piece? Those roles are crucial. When your season stretches into January, depth doesn't just help, it saves you. The Chiefs have been intentional about building offensive line pipelines. They invest in teaching. They emphasize versatility, tackle-to-guard cross-training, jumbo packages, and protection tweaks tailored to the opponent. A young tackle with the right traits can be molded, and the organization will give him a plan that fits their standards. Here's what the silent evaluation could look like behind the scenes. First, body control and anchor are graded against power rushers. Then, recovery footwork is tested against bendy edges who win with speed and counters. Finally, the mental side, cadence discipline, stunt recognition, hot calls, and how quickly he absorbs weekly installs, gets measured over and over. If Simmons checks enough boxes, Kansas City doesn't need to announce it with fanfare. They'll just fold him into the machine. Maybe it's scout team reps. Maybe it's a look at the right side with help from chips and tight alignments. Maybe it's guard reps to accelerate hand timing and leverage work. The pathway is quiet but real. And if he doesn't check the boxes yet, silence still serves a purpose. It protects the player's development, keeps expectations realistic, and prevents narratives that can box a young lineman into a label before he's had time to grow. The Chiefs aren't in the business of winning the press conference. They're in the business of winning football games. One more angle to consider, market leverage. When other teams don't know how high the Chiefs are on a player, it keeps prices sane for futures deals, reserve/futures contracts, or practice squad protections. That is textbook roster economics. The silence is not passive, it's active. Let's get tactical. If Simmons, or any young tackle, were to enter the Chiefs' orbit, the first strategic layer would be role definition. Is he a right-side prospect with a heavy punch who can counter bull rushers? Or a left-side developmental piece with smoother feet built to mirror speed? That decision drives reps, drills, and film assignments. Next comes the protection menu. Kansas City can lighten the load for a young tackle with quick game packages, sprint outs, and RPO looks that punish edge rushers for pinning their ears back. They can slide protection toward him, use the back as a late chip, or align a tight end in nasty splits to disrupt the rusher's runway. These are surgical adjustments that keep the offense on schedule. Run game helps too. Duo, inside zone, and gap schemes with double teams can give a young lineman confidence by letting him play downhill and violent. Once the run threat is established, pass sets get a touch easier because rushers lose the luxury of teeing off on every snap. Confidence is currency on the offensive line, and the Chiefs know how to mint it. There's also a cross-training component that fans sometimes overlook. Moving a young tackle inside for a stretch of practices can speed up his hands and teach him to win quicker at the point of attack. It compresses decision windows and improves anchor. When he moves back outside, the game feels slower. That's a real coaching trick in this building. And then there's the film laboratory. The Chiefs will isolate 2 or 3 archetype matchups and drill them relentlessly: long arm power guys, inside counter specialists, and ghost move speed threats. If Simmons grows in those lanes, his floor rises. With the right growth, you're not asking him to be elite. You're asking him to be functional enough that the rest of the offense can be elite. Bottom line, the strategy is incremental and intentional. You don't throw a developmental tackle into the deep end without a life plan. You build a swimmer, stroke by stroke, until he can handle the rip current of a playoff pass rush. That's how sustainable contenders operate. Now, let's talk about the temperature in Chiefs Kingdom. Fans want clarity, and that's fair. You love this team, you invest your time and your voice, and you want to know who's protecting your quarterback. Total silence can feel like a shrug. It isn't. It's discipline. Media will naturally ask questions, and sometimes the polite non-answer becomes the story. The headline today basically said the quiet is what we should expect, and that's true, because Kansas City has earned the right to control their message. You can either chase every whisper or trust the patterns of a front office that's consistently kept this team in championship range. There's also an entertainment layer to all this. The rumor mill is fun. It sharpens debates, powers barbershop talk, and fills your group chats. But development isn't content, it's craft. The team builds in private, and then the results appear on Sunday. That rhythm has brought parades to this city. It's okay if it doesn't always feed the news cycle. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with a simple promise. If there's real news on Josh Simmons, you'll hear it when it matters. Until then, try on the patience that champions wear. The quiet is uncomfortable sometimes, but it's also how you keep a competitive edge. Let's widen the lens to January football. The AFC is stacked with edge talent, speed, length, and relentless motors. The teams you'll likely see in big spots can heat up your tackles in a hurry. That's why even a developmental conversation around someone like Simmons has ripple effects that matter. If the Chiefs deepen their tackle pipeline, they're not just protecting a position, they're protecting the offense's identity. With a stable edge, you unlock the full menu: quick strike throws, layered play action, scramble drills that break a defense's soul, and late-game 4-minute offense that chokes the clock. This is what wins in January. Rivalries are decided by trenches in the cold months. When your quarterback is clean in the pocket and your edges don't crumble against premium rushers, the margins tilt your way. That's the difference between a road playoff grind and a confetti shower. The silence today is part of building that tomorrow. So what should you take from the Chiefs' silence on Josh Simmons? Take this. The organization is doing what it always does: evaluate, plan, and speak when it's time. No panic, no performative transparency, no chessboard reveals before the move is made. That's not avoidance, it's advantage. If Simmons is a future piece, the first hints won't be a quote, they'll be reps. A clean series in the preseason. A practice squad elevation that looks competent. A mid-season jumbo look where the edge is stonewalled on a key 3rd and 2. Those are the breadcrumbs you watch for with this team. And if he isn't part of the long-term puzzle, the silence will have served its purpose anyway. It will have protected the player's process and preserved the team's leverage, while the Chiefs continue to churn the bottom of the roster for edges. That is how you keep a title window propped open year after year. Remember, this team's identity is bigger than one name in a headline. The Chiefs win because they scout well, coach hard, and develop with intention. Silence is simply the sound of that work getting done. Chiefs Kingdom, you know how we do it here. We cut through the noise, we read the patterns, and we keep the focus on what wins games when it matters most. If there's real movement on Josh Simmons, we'll bring it to you the second it's official, the same way we always do. If you're rocking with the breakdown, tap that subscribe and ride with us. Drop your takes in the comments and join the road to 5,000 subs here on Kansas City Chiefs Today.